What's good? What's good? It's the one and only, but what do I know? Boxing coming back at y'all with another segment of Missing Boxing. But I think I'm gonna just call it "Have You Seen Me?" I think "Have You Seen Me" sounds better. So with my second segment of "Have You Seen Me," we have Danny Jacobs. The first one I did of Keith One Time Thurman. I don't know still haven't heard any news from Keith One Time Thurman, so he's still missing. So you see in here it says if found, contact Eddie Hearn, and Keith Thurman's case, contact Al Heyman. All right, so we have Danny Jacobs, man, who, I don't know what's been like going on with him here as lately, man. He was actually, his first loss, man. Danny Jacobs was a hot commodity coming out of Brooklyn, Brownsville, never ran, never will. He came out hot, man, and he beat the likes of, when he first came up, he beat the likes of Ishai Smith. I can't really think of it, before his stardom. I can't think of any big names because his stardom was short-lived because obviously he had cancer. He had cancer in his back or whatnot, which derailed his career. And he found out about his cancer shortly after, I think after his loss against Dmitry Pirog. Dmitry Pirog, who actually, ironically, had to stop boxing because of a back injury. Dmitry Pirog actually stopped Danny Jacobs in the 5th round and got the vacant WBO middleweight championship title. Dmitry Pirog actually would have been a huge problem if he would have continued boxing, but he had back injuries that caused him to have to stop boxing, man. So Danny Jacobs lost. He had a stoppage. Lost to Dmitry Pirog, and he was out of the ring for like 2 years or whatnot, fighting. He fought and he beat cancer. So shout out to Danny Jacobs. He was able to come back and work his way back up to the top, where he was able to fight the likes of Caleb Truax. For y'all to know Caleb Truax, Caleb Truax kind of been around the block, man. He's been in there with Caleb Plant. He actually has a victory. He actually has a victory over James DeGale, where he becomes I think it's the IBF champion at 168. I think. Don't quote me on that. He's been in there with the likes of Jermaine Taylor. Jermaine Taylor was actually the first person to beat him. But Danny Jacobs was able to stop Caleb Truax. He had his fight with Sergio Moore where he was dropped. And then came back and stopped him. Well, actually, I think the first fight, Sergio Moore had some injury or something like that. But he actually, but even before all that, forgive me, man, he actually won the WBA vacant title against his fight against Jared Fletcher in 2014, and he was then able to beat Caleb Truax. He stopped Sergio Moore, and then he got his most notable win against the former WBO titleist, I believe, Peter Quillen, in which he stopped Peter Quillen in the first round in their middleweight bout. And I thought that was a quick stoppage. I thought it was a quick stoppage or whatnot. It's actually funny because I remember I was rewatching that fight, and my brother walks in. And like it was at the moment where Peter Quillen was like, where Danny Jacobs was just like beating the brace off of Peter Quillen, bro, just beating the brace off. And my brother walked in, he said he had his food, and he looked at the TV like, damn, he getting his ass whooped. Like that, I will never forget that. That part was so funny. Shout out to my brother Steve, bro, Steven Williams, bro. Anyways, that's my closest brother in history, by the way. But anyways, so, he then, he beats Peter Quillen, and then he beats, and he goes to rematch Sergio Moore in a rematch that wasn't really necessary. And then he gets his big fight against Triple G. After Gennady Golovkin fought Kell Brook, man, a lot of people felt like, all right, well, if Kell Brook can have success against Gennady Golovkin, then maybe I can. So that's when, because a lot of people were ducking Kell Brook. A lot of people didn't really want to fight Kell Brook, including Danny Jacobs himself at first. Scratch that. No, I don't know why I said that. A lot of people were ducking Triple G, including Danny Jacobs, and a lot of people didn't want to fight Triple G. And then once Kell Brook fought Triple G, Danny Jacobs, pretty much was like, and he even stated it in the 24/7. He was like, bro, if this welterweight can have success, I know I can. So Danny Jacobs then goes to fight Triple G. for the IBF, the WBA, and the WBC titles, and puts on a great show. Some people thought that he won that fight. I thought that Triple G won in a close fight, but some people thought that Danny Jacobs won that fight, bro. He put up a very good performance. I think Danny Jacobs was dropped in like round 3 or round 4, but you know, he came and he put on a hell of a show. And actually, it's funny because Danny Jacobs actually, so he weighed in, and you know, if anybody knows the IBF rule, the IBF has this rule that you can't weigh 10 pounds over the same day as the next day weigh-in. You can't weigh 10 pounds. You can't be 10 pounds over your weight limit on the next day weigh-in for the IBF, which is the day of the fight, and he actually missed that weight for the IBF, so the IBF title really wasn't on the line. But however, bro, that was a close fight, man. Like I said, many people thought that Danny Jacobs really won that fight. It was a close fight. One judge had it 113 to 114. I believe that was Max DeLuca. Matter of fact, hold on. Okay, I got it pulled up right here. All right, so yeah, Max DeLuca had it 113, 114. Don Trella had it 112, 115, and that's because, so actually, in Max DeLuca had it 113, 114, so he had it 6 rounds apiece. But because Danny Jacobs was knocked down, that makes it a 10-8 round. So that makes it, you know, he takes a point off of Danny Jacobs. So he had it 6 rounds apiece. Don Trella and Steve Weisfeld had it 112 to 115 for Triple G. It would have been 113 to 115, so that's 7 rounds to 5 for Triple G. Close fight, man, and a very great performance. But it seemed like that was the last time we got that version of Danny Jacobs, man. I mean, he then came back to fight Luis Arias, or Luis Arias, my bad, who was doing a lot of talking. And though it was a one-side shutout victory, I mean, it just was a lackluster performance. We expected more coming off of that Triple G performance where Danny Jacobs did such a great job. We expected so much more, and we didn't get that. And then he fought Matt Zaleski, who was also undefeated. Just wasn't really the. I mean, he clearly won the fight, but it just wasn't the dominant performance that we wanted. It's like we wanted a great performance for Danny Jacobs after the Triple G, but we just didn't get there. He then fought Sergey Derevchenko, who actually shares the same trainer as Danny Jacobs, who did at the time Andre Rozier, and which was a very, 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 very close fight where Danny Jacobs actually dropped Derevchenko in round 1, and it was for the vacant title, the vacant IBF title. So he's actually been a 3-time middleweight champion or whatnot, and he barely won that fight by split decision. Then he goes to fight Canelo Alvarez, in which he loses that fight. He goes to fight Julio Cesar Chavez, which I was at that fight. That was out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I actually attended that fight, and it was a okay fight. But Chavez quit, and then he fought Gabe Rosado and just looked like he just didn't look good at all, bro. He fought Gabe Rosado almost a year after he fought Chavez Jr. and he just didn't look like that was a very trash performance by Danny Jacobs, and in which one of the judge even, or the announcer even stated the winner from Philadelphia, but they had to come back and correct it. And then he was off for about a year and a half, and he fought John Ryder February of last year, which many people thought that he lost. And by the way, after his fight with Canelo, he moves up to 168, and that's when he fought Chavez Jr. That's when he fought Gabe Rosado, which was a very lackluster performance, and a performance that we were expecting so much more because both of those guys were going back and forth and did not like each other. And then John Ryder, a lot of people thought that he won that fight. A lot of people felt like he was robbed in that situation. But regardless, we just have not seen the Danny Jacobs that we saw against Triple G after his fight with Triple G. So we've heard literally next to nothing from Danny Jacobs, man. So I'm just curious to know what's going on with Danny Jacobs, man. He's definitely definitely on the reason why he's on my second segment of Have You Seen Me? And it's sad, man, because I really think that Danny Jacobs could be a big name in such a stacked division at 168, where you have guys like Caleb Plant, you have guys like David Benavidez, David Morrell, you have guys like, you know, Canelo's even out there, you know, you have so many stacked names, man, but it just seems like Danny Jacobs is just missing in action, and we don't know when he's going to come back. Let me know what you guys think, man. Like, comment, subscribe. Do you want to see Danny Jacobs again? But what do I know?